Although it became less and less of a stunner, and maybe we can acquire the audio later of what Louis Riddick told you guys, because I was able to catch some of that.
And there's been some talk that the Rams like Ty Simpson. It would seem odd to me if they were to take a quarterback at 13, but I'm just curious, since Ty Simpson's going to be at the draft, he's going to be there for the first round. We've seen the drama play out where quarterbacks drop and drop and drop. Just give me 30 seconds on what you think happens to Ty Simpson tonight.
Man, I sure hope he goes in the first. I know the connection between him and LA. I know where it comes from. And look, and I have never moved off of the fact that I think that would be the perfect spot for him. And I hope there's some way, shape, or form that the Rams can find a way to maneuver around and get him in the fold and let him sit behind Matthew and then play in that system with Sean and with those group of guys. Because if that all happened, if that all came together like that, Ty is going to make a whole lot of people stick their foot in their mouth and go, oh, man, we just didn't take into account all the other things that lead into player success failure, and we got too hung up on we only started 15 games. And I get that. I understand why people rely on those data points to try and project future performance. Ty's a good player. I hope he winds up in LA.
And he seemed to be very bullish on Ty Simpson, and I know he was bullish yesterday when I saw him on SportsCenter last night. And look, this is a kid. When Dan Orlovsky a couple of weeks ago said, I think Ty Simpson is better than Fernando Mendoza. Mm-hmm. We talked about it, and I was like, I kind of agree with him. Like the reality is this. Fernando Mendoza, and this is not a shot at Fernando Mendoza because I love the kid, right? But Fernando Mendoza played on the oldest team in college football last year, an average age of almost 24 years old, all right? Mm-hmm. And Ty Simpson played on a very, what I would call, unconventional Alabama roster, okay? Where this is no longer Nick Saban's Alabama, and they had a poor offensive line and no running game. And there was a lot on Ty Simpson for 15 starts last year. And when you look at the upside, I think the floor is probably higher for Fernando because he's had more reps, more opportunities, played in higher leverage games. But I think the ceiling on Simpson is higher. And I said that day just based on what I've seen, and I've seen both guys play enough to have at least an opinion on them. I think the Rams did the smart thing here because, and McVay laid it out afterwards about Stafford as their quarterback, and this was a move similar to what the Packers have done historically, whether it was Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre or Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers. This guy's going to sit for 2 years. And that's what this guy needs, because the only knock on him, Cappy, is the fact that he only has the 15 starts in college.
Right. And so when you look back historically at, first-round draft choice quarterbacks who did not have a lot of starts in their career, I think of a guy like Mitch Trubisky, right? Like when Mitch Trubisky was coming out of North Carolina, he had a grand total of 12 starts, and people thought, well, that's just not enough film to know whether or not he's going to be a real starting quarterback in the NFL. And I'm sure everybody here who's listening knows it is not turned out to be what, in that case, the Chicago Bears were hoping would be a first-round draft choice. And now they're 3 quarterbacks past that draft. George, I think there's 2 ways of looking at what the Rams did yesterday. There's the positive way of looking at it, and frankly, there's the negative way of looking at it. Here's the positive way of looking at it. The fact is, the Rams believe their roster is Super Bowl ready pre-draft.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
100%.
Okay, so if the Rams believe that their current roster, because of the moves they made in this offseason, is shore up their secondary, if the Rams believe that they have a Super Bowl-ready roster right now, then the positive side of this is drafting your future quarterback who you like a lot and who you think has tremendous upside, draft talk here, people, then this is a great pick for the Rams. Okay, that's the positive side of things. Super Bowl ready roster, future quarterback now in-house, ready to learn from a Hall of Famer, and in McVay we trust. That's the positive side. Here's the negative side, George. Mm-hmm. The negative side is, wait a second, if you are a Super Bowl caliber franchise and the team hopes to play in the Super Bowl yet again in its home stadium, and the Rams are all in on this season, then could there have been a player that could have immediate impact on helping the Rams reach their goals this year? So the negative side is you just drafted a quarterback who is not going to help you win a Super Bowl this year. But you see, the thing is that all the pre-draft talk, will they get Mekhi Lemon? Might they trade out? Would they take an edge rusher because they know that their young edge rushers will eventually get to free agency and they'll be worth a lot of money and they may not be able to pay them? Will they go wide receiver because they're not sure about Puka's future? They're not sure about Devontae as he's aging. I would say all in all, if you think that they have a Super Bowl ready roster pre-draft and they love this kid, then this turns out to be a good pick.
Yeah.
I can't call it a great pick because we don't know how long Stafford's going to play, and we don't know what Ty Simpson will be when he starts to play. But I will just say one last thing.
Yeah.
You know, the slight difference between what happened when the Packers drafted Jordan Love is that at that time, what Aaron Rodgers wanted was more help to get to a Super Bowl.
Right.
The slight difference is that the Rams believe, and I think we both believe, the Rams already have a Super Bowl ready roster.
Already. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, for sure. So here's what I would say to you.
Yeah, tell
Are
me.
there guys that went after Simpson that could have helped them? Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, the kid from Penn State, the guard went right after him. Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami, an edge went after them. Right, like there are guys, right? Blake Miller, the kid from Clemson. There are guys that could have held them. I don't think drafting a receiver that high ever made sense to me because they don't do that.
Right.
That's just, they find guys. I mean, hell, the kid they drafted in the 7th round last year from Pitt.
Kenyatta Mumford.
Yeah,
right.
Kenyatta Humphreys. I mean, that kid is good.
Yeah.
Like they're good at developing receivers. Like I'm not worried about that. And honestly, they've done a good job of drafting linemen in the 2nd and 3rd round. So, like, I am not worried about them because if you look at their last several drafts after the F them picks draft, right, when they went all in for the Super Bowl, since then, they have done a fantastic, not a good job, a fantastic job of drafting the rest of the way. And it's not just first-round guys. If anything, you make the case that the guys in the middle rounds or, you know, early to middle rounds have been the most successful guys.
Yeah, and by the way, just for everybody who's listening, George and I have just butchered Kenyatta Mumfield's name. We've called him everything else, Mumford, Mumfields. We've called him a bunch of other names. But he was a 7th-round pick last year, George, and he played some valuable time and made some big catches down the stretch.
Yes.
If you remember, as like a number 3 wide receiver. So I'm with you. Look, I think that when you look at what Jimmy G was making last year as a backup quarterback, let's
Right,
just
now you
use
got that
round
money for
numbers.
something else.
Right. Well, you had $10 million to Jimmy G, a guy who's never going to play. And I don't know the exact dollar figure on Ty Simpson yet, but it's going to be less than what Jimmy G was making.
Yes,
you know?
agreed.
And so now you've actually you're going to develop a quarterback of the future,
Right.
And simultaneously you're going to pay a backup quarterback slightly less. Now, by the way, you're going to pay him less because he don't have the experience that Jimmy Garoppolo has.
Well, but you've been sitting there developing in the preseason Stetson Bennett for 3 years.
That's
so,
true.
Like, it's time to. I mean, Stetson Bennett's like 40 years old basically at this stage.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean,
time to
him and
bleep or get
LeBron.
off the pot if you're Stetson Bennett. And I say that with all due respect that they have been developing you to be the number 2 guy for several years because everyone knows you're not going to be a number 1 quarterback in the NFL. So this is it. This is his chance.
Well, let me ask you this. For everybody that yesterday was, and there was a lot of reaction when the Rams made the selection and, you know, all the Rams fans were there and they made the pick and it wasn't like, yeah, we got our quarterback of the future. It was like, what? What the hell are they doing? Why would they take a quarterback? So I'm going to ask everybody this question. And I don't need to be their spokesperson, but I'm just asking because this is the way I feel. Has Les Snead and Sean McVay not earned your belief?
No question.
Right? So if you believe that Les Snead is a great talent evaluator and a great general manager who accumulates the kind of talent that Sean McVay needs to coach to win, And if you believe that Sean McVay is a great play caller, he's a great developer of quarterbacks, he's got a great sense of who and when, because let's face it, they had Jared Goff, but they didn't draft him. They made the decision he couldn't play for them. What did they want? They wanted a veteran quarterback. They went out and got a guy. This guy has proven to go from Hall of Fame stats on losing franchise to automatic Hall of Famer on winning franchise. So if you have Matthew Stafford for another year, and maybe it's 2 more years, you're going to have this guy, Ty Simpson, sitting there. And you're exactly right, George. Whether you want to call it Jordan Love in waiting, whether you want to go more historically and you look at Phillip Rivers, who sat behind Drew Brees for 2 years, or you want to look at Patrick Mahomes, who waited maybe not quite as long behind Alex Smith.
Right.
There is some history and there is a proof of concept already to say that a model where you give a young quarterback time to develop, that can be really a good thing for a franchise.
Yeah,
so
100%. And look, after the Super Bowl year, here are the draft picks that have contributed to the Rams. Kobe Durant, 4th-round pick. Kyron Williams, 5th-round pick. 6th-round pick, okay? Darion Kendrick. Now, some of these guys are not here anymore, but they did contribute and help this team, okay? Darion Kendrick, 6th-round pick, okay? Then the following year, Steve Avila, right? 2nd-round pick. Byron Young, 3rd-round pick. Kobe Turner, 3rd-round pick. Stetson Bennett, 4th-round pick. Davis Allen, 5th-round pick. Puka Nacua, 5th-round pick. Dejuan Johnson, 7th-round pick. Then the next year, we know Verse, number 1 pick. Fisk, 2nd. Corum, 3rd. Kitchens, 3rd. Brennan Jackson, 5th. Tyler Davis, 6th. Jordan Winnington, 6th. Bo Limmers, 6th. And then last year, Ferguson, 2nd, who we think is going to be good. Jarquez Hunter, who we've talked about, we think he's going to be good. Kanata Mumfield, right? 7th-round pick. Like, they've done a good job in the draft the last 4 years.
Let me tell you something right now. If you just mentioned 20 names, okay, one guy, Jared Verse, was a 1st-round pick.
Everybody else was 2nd or even up to 7th-round picks.
Right. You mentioned a guy like Avila, 2nd-round pick. You mentioned Braden Fisk. That's another 2nd-round pick. So those guys are the high-round draft choices.
Right.
But when you started mentioning these other names, Puka we obviously know in the 5th round, and some of these other players that are impact players. So in other words, if you just mentioned 20 guys, I would tell you 13 of those guys are probably still
between the 3rd and the 7th round. Yes,
but they're probably A, still on this roster, and B, making an impact on this roster.
Correct.
So this is the thing about the Rams. And I don't feel like I need to be their spokesperson, but I think it's pretty darn obvious. They know what the hell they're doing.
Yes.
They have accumulated a ton of talent between rounds 2 and round 7, which means, what does that mean? It means they pay these guys less. They're not drafting a number 1 overall pick or a number 2 or a top 5. They're paying their young players less. Do you not see that, everybody? And so when you go and you draft a quarterback like this, and the storyline, by the way, George, which I thought was very interesting last night as the reports were happening in advance of the Rams draft choice, that the father of Ty Simpson is a college football coach.
Tennessee Martin, right. He's a coach. This is also a kid who sat under 2 different quarterbacks at Alabama. He had a chance. Miami, before they went and got Darian Mensah from Duke, they offered him $6.5 million to stay in college.
Yeah,
And by the way, if you look at Miami's track record in the portal getting quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Carson Beck is probably going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick. Like they know what they're doing evaluating quarterbacks in the portal. So all that stuff. This is a kid who sat behind Milroe most recently. And to be honest, that last year probably should have started over Milroe in some people's minds.
But the kid's father, I'll finish this thought, the kid's father is a college football coach. His college football playing days were in the SEC when Les Snead spent some time at Auburn
they know
playing
each
ball.
other, yes.
These guys go back, they know each other. And the story was last night that the dad called Les Snead to consult with him. And Les Snead said, dude, I'm telling you, your kid is a 1st-round draft choice. He should come out right now. Little did everybody know that Les Snead was going to wind up drafting the kid.
Oh, that sneaky Snead.